I am going to try to be doing more news coverage. I feel like most of my content is kind of React slop, which is great, which is fine. I am not opposed to doing React slop, but I do want to do more, I guess, for lack of better words, like mature content, stuff that actually shows I know what I'm talking about to some extent, and also educating myself in the process. So like, for instance, the person that we are going to be going over in this segment is somebody that I actually had to look up, and I will be educating myself a little bit in real time on her, and we'll go over her in just a bit. So what are we talking about today? Teen takeovers. What are they? Are they a real threat? I had to look this up as well. I kind of was looking up news to go over, and I discovered that apparently, just to skip ahead a little bit, this person, Janine Pirro, the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, aka Washington, D.C., came out with a message about teen takeovers and promising jail for the parents of the teens that are being involved in this. So I decided, okay, this sounds interesting. Let's learn about teen takeovers and whether or not this is actually something we should be concerned about. As the school year ends and summer break begins, police and city officials across the country are bracing for large gatherings called teen takeovers. Kristen Henning, a professor and director of the Juvenile Justice Clinic and Initiative at Georgetown Law, defines teen takeovers as a group of teenagers who get together at a designated time and location to do what teenagers do: socialize, hang out with friends, and spend time outdoors. These gatherings have been covered by the media in metropolitan areas such as Atlanta, Chicago, Detroit, and Washington, D.C. Critics complain these gatherings or flash mobs are too large, disruptive, and dangerous, as some meetups have turned violent. Henning says her clinic hasn't seen many arrests connected to these gatherings in the D.C. area. She told NPR's Morning Edition that the large hangouts aren't unusual, but they are, quote, getting a bad rap because of viral video and negative media coverage. The reality is, in so many of these instances, we are sensationalizing teenagers, often lower income or children of color, who are taking over, if you will, or visiting gentrified neighborhoods, Henning said. The focus becomes on the delinquent or criminal activity that takes place. NPR's Michelle Martin and Henning discussed whether teen takeovers pose a real threat and what could effectively replace them. Clicking play above. Oh, here we go. Cool.
The first steps toward independence have always liked to gather at parties, maybe at a local mall or at a park. Adults often find these get-togethers annoying, but recently gatherings in some places are taking what seems in some cases like a more ominous turn. Here's a couple of TV reports.
Out-of-control teenagers taking over streets across the nation now.
Meanwhile, a community field day in Orlando turned to swarms of teenagers actually being chased by police officers. And organizers say that the teens tried to take over the family-friendly event.
We called Kristen Henning to get her take on this, what are being called teen takeovers. She's a professor at Georgetown Law Center who also directs the school's Juvenile Justice Clinic and Initiative. Good morning, Professor Henning. Thanks so much for joining us.
They just need to make more teen-friendly spaces. It's just a collapse of the pro-social environment. This sounds like teenagers are just desperate for some like a third space and shit to do that's not school.
Good morning, Michelle. Thank you for having this conversation.
Well, so tell us about what are being called teen takeovers.
Music.
Some people call them like flash mobs. And what makes these different from other types of impromptu hangouts? Is it the size? Because kids can gather on social media and the groups are bigger. What are you seeing?
Look, a teen takeover is literally a group of teenagers who get together at a designated time, at a designated location to do what teenagers do, which is socialize, laugh, hang out with friends, get some outdoor space, and what makes these different is that they are now being sensationalized and they're getting a bad rap because
Okay, it sounds like it's literally just sensationalizing normal teen behavior.
Because we are seeing video clips and reports, sensationalized reports like the ones you just played about out-of-control kids, swarms of young people interfering with businesses.
I don't miss being a teen. Me neither. This is going to be a Stunlock, but I hear people all the time like romanticizing their teenage years, and I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, I know okay, I'll say this, I'm privileged. I'm extraordinarily privileged, okay? That being said, I did not like my teenage years. I thought they sucked. I didn't have the freedom that I wanted, and also did not get, not only do you not get the freedom that you crave as a child, but you also don't, the freedom and respect that you crave as a child, but you also don't get, the fallback of being a child. You're treated like an adult in all of the worst ways possible. My teenage years were not good. Like they were fine. They weren't like tragic or anything, but like they just kind of sucked. Like I just wished I could be an adult already.
And the reality is, in so
treated like
many
we're
of
an
these
idiot.
instances, we are sensationalizing teenagers, often lower income children of color, who are taking over, if you will, or visiting gentrified neighborhoods, or the focus becomes on the delinquent or criminal activity that takes place.
Okay, so has your clinic had any cases connected to these get-togethers in the D.C. area?
So we have not. And in the District of Columbia, the arrest numbers have been quite low in the recent April and March incidents of this. And I think it's telling that our clinic has not had any arrest tied to this. You're seeing anywhere from 2 to 8
No
kids
arrests.
On each occasion of these teen gatherings being arrested.
2 to 8.
For what?
Okay.
though?
2 to 8 being arrested. I thought she meant like the whole group. Like they were worried about like 2 to 8 teens total.
Fighting among themselves for what? Property damage?
Excellent question. I mean, I pulled it up. I was curious about this myself. The one in March had 2 youth arrests that we found reported, and there were indeed 2 guns recovered. In April, and I'll say more about that if you like.
I'm glad I'm not the only one, Sam.
There were about 8 arrests. We're talking about 5 arrests were what they call assault on a police officer.
I can't rewind. Did she say there was gun ownership among the teens? Because that's a problem. You're not supposed to concealed carry if you're not 18. If they're concealed carrying, then that's a problem.
And people have to understand this is not a situation where a child is running over and initiating an assault on a police officer, but these are, encounters that escalate from 0 to 100, whether it's verbal threats or resisting.
So,
there were about 8 arrests. We're talking about 5 arrests were what they call assault on a police officer. And people have to understand this is not a situation where a child is running over and...
Why were the police officers there to begin with? Like, okay, assault on a police officer. I fail to believe that 5 teenagers just decided to assault police officers. I would much sooner believe that the police officers made that shit up and they just wanted to arrest people.
Running over and initiating an assault on a police officer, but these are, encounters that escalate from 0 to 100, whether it's verbal threats or resisting.
So if your concern clearly is that kids are being criminalized, what is a more effective strategy in your case? In your opinion?
Sounds like just racism. Could be.
In your opinion?
Yeah, so the more successful...
they just said it was people of color? Okay, I must have missed that. Sorry.
Yeah, so the more successful strategy is it's a couple of things. It's creating positive spaces for young people to hang out. So I want to give a shout out to the Department of Parks and Recreation for their teen night out.
I know that show.
Also, another positive response is outreach teams, youth outreach teams.
We have to leave it there for now. Kristen Henning is director.
Okay, very nice. Okay, so this doesn't sound like a real threat to me. I have not been convinced that this is a real threat. Fox News says otherwise. Inside, the teen takeovers threatening to explode this summer as cities remain on edge. Very worried. Experts say social media and lack of consequences for juvenile offenders are fueling the growing phenomenon. Let's take a look. Maybe stop trying to schedule the teens' free time, holy shit control freaks. I think that some amount of scheduling for teenagers is fine. I do think that teenagers are now at the age where like they need to start making decisions about their own schedules. And if they don't have that freedom, then you're gonna end up getting things like quote unquote teen takeovers, I guess, which it doesn't sound like they're doing anything wrong. They're just looking for shit to do. What pisses me off most about doxing is it usually targets unknown residences. Yeah, I know. It's very unfortunate.
To see this escalate, there's absolutely a potential to see this escalate. So many of these incidents are fueled by
the slippery slope fallacy immediately.
2 things: social media, and
it does that every time I pause. Wow. That's going to be annoying.
You have teens with really a feeling of there's no other third spaces, there's nothing else for us to do, and also the way in which social media can be used to facilitate these really
Do I just not get closed captioning? There's an option for it.
The radar, but also then on the back end,
whatever,
like these street races, these street takeovers. So much of the reason why those continue to happen and to draw big numbers.
Okay, but what are they actually doing?
Because of the social media views that they get on the other end. There are massive accounts that are just dedicated to showing the chaos and the...
Okay, I want to see one of these. I want to see one of these massive accounts. Hold on. Teen takeover video. Viral video. Let's try that. Mother pleads for son's charges to be dropped after Tampa teen takeover arrests.
Well, she wants the charges dropped. The mother of a teenager who was arrested in Tampa during a teen takeover says her son had nothing to do with that takeover. News Channel 8's Victoria Lucas joining us live in Tampa, where a positive takeover is planned for tonight. So tell us a little bit more about that, Victoria.
Keith, that's right. So we're here at the Jackson Heights NFL Yet Center,
What they're doing wrong is having guns. That part is wrong. They should not have guns.
where police are planning an event called Takeover with a Purpose. Teens are invited.
But I also don't think that warrants, like, if you want to charge them with, like, carrying a firearm underage, that's fine. But that shouldn't end you up in juvie. That shouldn't get you a fine. What it should do is get your gun taken away. Just take the gun away.
Invited to come out for some food and games. It's also where that mother, Angela Bellamy, is going to come out here, she says, to talk to law enforcement about getting her son's charges
Check the
dropped.
comments. I will.
It's going to impact his job that he gets. It's going to
Of course, black.
impact the way people see
By which I mean the black person was arrested.
him in the future. This is social media. Like his face, they're going to remember him forever. Like, no.
Angela Bellamy says her 15-year-old son, Armani Polite, was not involved in last Friday night's
Here we go.
takeover at Curtis Hickson Park. She says he was chaperoned by his 18-year-old brother to allow him to see his girlfriend.
I don't want the charges. I want to try my hardest to get them dropped.
Polite joins
tragic.
21 others from the ages of 12 to 21 charged in the incident.
This is teens coming out, starting fights, wreaking havoc in the streets and making it unsafe for our community members, our visitors, and our police officers.
Are they starting fights?
Polite faces a fray, which means fighting in public and causing a disturbance, along with resisting.
I feel like the job of the police officers in this instance is to simply break up the fights. Just break them up. Break them up. Tell them to go home. I don't see the need for arrests here. Nice save. You guys know what I meant. I didn't mean, oh, of course a black guy's in trouble. I kind of did, though. Of course a black guy's in trouble because a black guy did nothing wrong and got in trouble. That's what I meant.
An officer without violence. He says after spending time with
black
his girlfriend,
child.
he and his brother went to see other friends.
Okay, this actually looks pretty rough. Hold on.
His girlfriend, he and his brother went to
Or are the police already in this?
see other friends. Then a fight broke out of nowhere.
No, this is a fight. This is a fight
between
between teenagers. Okay, wait. This actually does look dangerous.
without violence. He says after spending time with his girlfriend, he and his brother went to see other friends. Then
But once again, the job of the police officers here is to break up the fights and tell them to go home. Just tell them to go home and give them something better to do. They always say go outside. Now you can't even go outside. Yeah, exactly. These are bored as teenagers.
a fight broke out of nowhere. Polite says he tried.
And I will also say this is toxic masculinity at work, right? Like people just fighting each other in the streets.
Other friends. Then a fight broke out of nowhere. Polite says he tried to defuse it, but instead became someone's target.
He hit me, and I defended myself if you would say.
Oh man, if there's like a huge group fight like that going on, it's not your job to defuse it. Like, if there's just two people fighting, you can try to defuse that, but please, for the love of God, take care of yourself first. Be safe, especially if you're a kid. If you're a kid, your job in this circumstance is to find an adult. Find an adult.
Polite says police arrested the teen who hit him, but admitted he ran.
Wait. Look at this.
Polite says police arrested the teen who hit him,
What are they doing to him? Look at this shit. This is not okay right here.
but admitted he ran off because he was scared.
They were chasing me, and then the police officer was like, he has like 40 feet of taser or something like that. I was like, I don't want to get tased. So I just stopped.
The police officers are literally escalating this to worse circumstances, which is not a surprise, of course, but they're not doing their job.
I'm not making no excuses for the thugs that are out there, but Armani Polite is not the thug that you're talking about.
I asked Tampa police about this case and
I'm not making excuses either. You shouldn't be starting fights like that. But at the same time, you should look at this as a systemic problem. Bored teenagers who don't have third spaces, who are, they don't have anything to do, so they just like get in large. And we're living in a very antisocial society as well. The United States is a very antisocial place to live. So this is what happens. This is the natural collapse.
haven't heard back yet. Keith, tonight's event is from 8 to midnight.
The mom is passionate. What else did Armani have to say about that night? I get the impression that he learned some tough lessons.
He sure did. He tells me that he wished he didn't run, but he was scared, and he spent...
It's kind of crazy that as a reporter, though, by the way, this is a total side note, but you can just kind of look at your smartphone while you're reporting. I feel like I really wish that were not normalized. just don't, like, come on, like, you really got to look at your phone for this. This is your fucking job. I don't know.
Was scared, and he spent the night at the juvenile detention center, and his mom picked him up at 7 in the morning, he says, and he says he never wants to be arrested again.
Victoria Lucas reporting live for us in Tampa. Thank you.
Okay, well, that sucks. Like, okay, I see the problem. I now see the problem, but once again, the police are escalating it, not making it better. Let's keep going with this.
The carnage and the, just the street takeover events where it's almost like a social media cloud.
But once again, it should be noted that was an isolated incident. Okay, that is not typical of these teen takeovers.
Out thing. And so definitely there is potential for this to escalate and to really damage some really good progress that we've made in cutting back on that post-COVID violent crime spike in DC, for example, right down in Navy Yard during times where there are a lot of other people out. And so it's incredibly disruptive to the broader community. And sometimes they do obviously turn violent.
I turned up my noise gate.
But the reason
Let me know if it's a problem.
that you're seeing, I think a lot of these cases get diverted into like juvenile court as juvenile delinquency cases rather than as being tried as adults is precisely because you're dealing with oftentimes hundreds of teens, many of whom are not engaging in violent behavior but are engaging in otherwise disruptive and what we would consider delinquent or deviant behavior. They're also
like what? Not just violent, but delinquent behavior. Like what? Like loitering? What do you mean?
So is a fine line.
Nice cut.
Because what you don't want, and I think this is what's happening, unfortunately, in some of these cities, including in DC, is this feeling amongst juveniles of, well, we can do whatever we.
It probably has a script. I just think that if you're a reporter on the TV, you should not be looking at your phone while you're reporting. Maybe that's just me turning into an old man because I'm 30 now. But at the same time, I'm like, we got to return with a V, right? There was a time and a place where reporters didn't need to look at their phones while they were reporting on the news, and I prefer that time.
We want, because if we pick up a juvenile case or if we get detained for a curfew violation,
devil's lettuce. Oh, well, they should have said that then.
Really happens, and so there's no decision. Our parents get to just come pick us up. It's a slap on the wrist. Nothing really happens.
That's what it should be.
No disincentive for them to continue.
What happened to letting the parents like discipline their kids? Like these kids do not deserve jail time. It should be a slap on the wrist. It should be, don't be a idiot, okay? Get better grades in school and find better hobbies. And then provide them with those better hobbies, okay? So in Pavlovian conditioning, right? You have to replace I think this is a Pavlovian idea. You must replace a negative behavior with something else. That is the best way to subvert the behavior. Like when you're talking about addiction, right? The best way to subvert an addiction is to replace that behavior with something else. When you feel like you want to like do crack, for instance, like if you're a crack addict, okay, rather than going out to get crack, you suck on some candy instead. And you just retrain your brain that when you, and the bottom urge, the urge at the back of your mind never goes away, but you're starting to train your brain that this is the new acceptable behavior and this is what we do instead of getting crack. We pop a piece of candy. It's a healthier behavior, right? Obviously, candy's not healthy, but you get my point. And they're not replacing the behavior. They're just throwing these kids in boxes and saying, okay, well, this will fix them. If we treat them like animals, that will fix them. Right?
Continue doing it because they feel as though they have free reign. These are incredible resource black holes, right? It's almost like trying to suppress a riot when you have law enforcement showing up to these. This is not something that one or two officers can do.
Are you kidding me?
So it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of resources, especially when you have that many teens involved in them. There's a
that sucks,
huge
Sam.
overlap between
nicotine addiction. Nicotine addiction, I've heard, is one of the hardest to bust.
Juvenile delinquency,
if not the hardest,
and poverty and mental health issues and even delinquency from school, truancy. These are kids who are not.
I've only ever really, sorry, I know this is another tangent. I know I've only ever really had nicotine once. There's some in cigars, and I think I've smoked cigars actually on 2 occasions. The first time I didn't smoke a whole lot though, so I didn't feel like the buzz. The second time I definitely felt the buzz, and it does. Like if you're tired, it'll wake you up, and if you're overwhelmed, it'll calm you down. It's like magic, and it's very hard to overcome a nicotine addiction.
Largely speaking, where it's like, why don't you just stay home and play video games? They're looking for reasons to be out and to do something, to participate in some sense of community is a lot of the reasons that you get. Now, I don't want to excuse that's obviously I think a cop out for excusing delinquent behavior. But there are some underlying issues here that I think a lot of cities are going to have to figure out.
Okay, here's the problem. Everybody is so worried about getting the pound of flesh. We have to make sure that we punish somebody, right? Somebody's got to take the fall for this. Why not fix the underlying issues? From my perspective, it seems to be, let's just do a little research. This was going to be a short segment. We'll make it a longer one. Let's just do a little research. Teen takeover. Here, let's try rise in teen delinquent behavior. From Psychology Today, The Adolescent Brain and Delinquency. Review by Gary Drevich. I don't know who wrote this. Oh, sorry, it says right here. Wendy B. Smith, PhD. Key points: delinquent crime rises sharply from age 10 and falls off at age 16. Adolescents experience rapid but uneven brain development, and reward-driven activity takes precedence. Early life trauma can create even greater risk for adolescents. So right off the bat, boom, we've got early life trauma. You reduce early life trauma, you reduce the chance of delinquency in the teenage years. In the class of things that happen so often or predictably as to become truisms are the high-risk activities that teenagers frequently engage in, like driving too fast, using alcohol or drugs, unprotected sex, and delinquency. Decades of research report that across the Western countries, delinquent behaviors rise sharply from age 10 until 16 and fall off just as sharply in late adolescence and early adulthood, a phenomenon referred to as the age crime curve. So this is already a studied phenomenon. Because these activities can result in immediate dangers and long-term negative consequences for young people and for others, greater knowledge and understanding of what's happening developmentally in adolescent brains can be a vital part of helping vulnerable kids. Adolescence is second only to early childhood in the rapidity and sheer volume of changes occurring in the brain development. 3 different brain systems and their interconnections are at play: reward-driven behavior, harm avoidance, and regulatory behavior. At the same time, teens are experiencing powerful changes to their physical and sexual selves, accompanied by the hormonal cascade of puberty. So it's literally just being a teen. Yes, kind of. But the problem is you're not solving the behavior by arresting them, by punishing them. Punishment's not the answer. I guarantee you, one thing we're not going to find in this article is that punishment is the answer. Parental rights, unless you're black or gay. Even in this circumstance, obviously they're going to target like minority populations, but like this is less parental rights for everybody. A curfew is fewer parental rights for everybody. I'm not saying that a curfew is also always a bad thing. I'd have to look into it and think about it. But at the same time, like that's not the solution to this problem. They're already, okay, if you're already a delinquent, right? Like if you're already committing delinquent activities, you're not going to follow a curfew. I think if cops were restricted to police their own communities and not ones they don't live in, that would be a big help. I agree. Adolescent brain development. During this period, there is an increase in brain receptors for dopamine, a neurotransmitter that has a strong effect on the experience of pleasure. This increase in dopamine activity makes rewards seem even more rewarding, particularly in the presence of peer pressure. At the same time, a decrease in activity in the area of the brain that is involved in response to danger or threat, the amygdala, we know that one. Amygdalas are swollen in Republican brains. It's the area for like what it says right here, danger or threat. Makes negative outcomes seem less threatening. So there's a decrease in activity of the amygdala during the teenage years. And that means that your impulses to do dangerous things are going to take precedence over your drive to not get hurt. In contrast, the areas involved in self-regulatory and executive processes such as planning ahead, weighing risks and rewards, response inhibition, and the ability to consider multiple sources of information simultaneously are slower to develop. Adolescents show exaggerated response to anticipation of rewards, while their warning systems may be less sensitive to potentially harmful stimuli than those of adults. The activity of the reward system prevails over harm avoidance functions, and the regulatory system of executive function is not yet able to achieve a balance between these two. The development of judgment and reason occurs over the next several years, well into the 20s. It is aided by I know that for a fact. I am so much smarter than I was 25 years ago. At least I hope so. It is aided by the process of pruning, unused neural connections falling away, and myelination, neurons acquiring a coating of white material that increases the efficiency and coordination of connections between executive and regulatory parts of the brain, controlling emotions, impulsivity, and decision making. So there's pruning, which is what it sounds like. If you're a Discord mod, you know what pruning is, right? So anything that you don't use, it's use it or lose it. So if you learn Spanish like I did for 5 years, and then you just never practice it, your brain prunes that. My brain has pruned almost all of my Spanish knowledge, okay? And myelination. So what myelination does is it basically speeds up the process of a neuron by coating it with, I think it's called just like a myelin sheath, right? A myelin sheath, which is the white material that increases efficiency and coordination, like it says here. So it just makes the neurons work better. And that happens in your 20s, or more of it happens in your 20s, I should say. My brain is pruned music theory. There you go. Medulla oblongata, like from the Waterboy movie with Adam Sandler. Brain development and delinquency. For all of us, adolescent development has its foundations in what we have already experienced. That includes the fundamentally important early caregiving relationships and experiences, as well as environmental forces and factors. When these are benign and supportive, young people have what is needed to navigate the challenges of an immature regulatory system and the heightened sensitivity to rewards. If, however, there has been trauma or victimization in a child's life, brain development will be affected. Early occurring child abuse dysregulates the stress response system, leaving a teen more vulnerable to the risks of puberty and adolescence. So it seems like physical abuse, like police officers are committing against these teenagers, will make the behavior worse, as it turns out. They will want to lash out more. Wow, imagine that. Children need consistent... Now, this is talking about in early childhood, I will admit. So it's not directly saying that. But it also would imply that at any stage of development, that kind of abuse and punishment is not going to help. Like, why would it? If it's not helping them in childhood, why would it help them? Like in early childhood, why would it help them in their teenage years? Children need consistent, attuned nurturing in the early years to promote effective behavioral regulation, reasonable interpretations of social cues, empathy, and emotional control. Children whose caregivers are impaired or are absent physically or psychologically may not develop a reasonably sturdy stress response system or sense of self that helps them determine whom to trust when danger is present and which behaviors are just too risky. The former juvenile offenders who tell their stories in my book Before Their Crimes, What We're Misunderstanding About Childhood Trauma, Youth Crime, and the Path to Healing paint a haunting picture of the impact of traumatic early experience on the trajectory into delinquency. That was a good article. Wendy B. Smith, PhD. Thank you. That was very good. So we learned something, okay? Abuse does not help these kids. So if you want to mitigate this behavior, you don't tackle them to the ground and throw them in fucking cages like animals, okay? That's the opposite of what you want to do, actually. This is a study from Iran. Let me just see the abstract. Problem behavior theory and explaining adolescents' problem behavior. Dubsy, cut this out if it doesn't seem relevant. Results indicated that individual vulnerability and opportunity risk availability had significant relationship with delinquent behaviors and a significant interaction with perceived support and their influence on delinquent behaviors. Further, perceived support was negatively associated with delinquent behaviors. Our results were consistent with PBT's explanatory model for adolescents' problem behavior in Western countries and are informative about problem behavior and involvement among Iranian adolescents and the design of an intervention. So basically, this study is about explaining adolescent delinquent behaviors. So this just further reinforces what we just read. The dangers of detention. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. The impact of incarcerating youth in detention and other secure facilities. Now, this is some juicy shit right here. Detention, a form of locked custody of youth pre-trial who are arrested. Juvenile detention centers are the juvenile justice system's version of jail, in which most young people are being held before the court has judged them delinquent. Some youth in detention are there because they fail the conditions of their probation or parole, or they may be waiting in detention before their final disposition, i.e. sentenced to a community program or juvenile correctional facility. Despite the lowest youth crime rates in 20 years, hundreds of thousands of young people are locked away every year in the nation's 591 secure detention centers. I don't know if that's a lot or not. It's just 591 feels like a lot. Detention centers are intended to temporarily house youth who pose a high risk of reoffending before the trial or who are deemed likely to not appear for their trial. But the nation's use of detention is steadily rising, and facilities are packed with young people who do not meet those high-risk criteria. About 70% are detained for non-violent offenses. That's crazy. I'm just going to read a little bit of this. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but this is very valuable reading, and I will probably read the rest of it later. I'll link it in the chat. The increased and unnecessary use of secure detention exposes troubled young people to an environment that more closely resembles adult prisons and jails than the kinds of community and family-based interventions proven to be the most effective. Detention centers, said a former deputy mayor of New York of that city's infamous Spofford facility, are, quote, indistinguishable from a prison. Commenting on New York's detention centers, one Supreme Court justice said that fairly viewed pretrial detention of a juvenile gives rise to injuries comparable to those associated with the imprisonment of an adult. Detained youth who are frequently pre-adjudication and awaiting their court date, or sometimes what does adjudication mean again? I'm sorry. Make a formal judgment or decision about a problem or disputed matter. The legal process of resolving a dispute or deciding a case. Okay, so their case hasn't been decided yet. Sometimes I could have picked that up from context clues, but I just want to be careful. Sometimes waiting for their placement in another facility or community-based program can spend anywhere from a few days to a few months in locked custody. Imagine being I can't imagine being a teenager, even now. Months, especially to a teenager, that's like an eternity. Like you're a completely different person. In that developmental stage, after a few months, you're a completely different person. At best, detained youth are physically and emotionally separated from their families and communities who are the most invested in their recovery and success. Often, detained youth are housed in overcrowded, understaffed facilities, an environment that conspires to breed neglect and violence. Detention has a profoundly negative impact on young people's mental health and physical well-being, their education, and their employment. One psychologist found that for 1/3 of incarcerated youth diagnosed with depression, the onset of the depression occurred after they began their incarceration. And another suggests that poor mental health and the conditions of confinement together conspire to make it more likely that incarcerated teens will engage in suicide and self-harm. Party of family values, by the way, party that is trying to protect children, by the way. Let's throw the teenagers in jail so that they'll commit suicide. This shit follows them through their adult lives too. Oh yeah, for sure. We haven't even begun to touch on how this affects them moving forward in their lives. And we won't. Like, I'm not going to get to that, but that's a great point to point out. Like, this follows them forever. Economists have shown that the process of incarcerating youth will reduce their future earnings and their ability to, their ability to remain in the workforce, and could change formerly detained youth into less stable employees. It's a very capitalist way of approaching it, but true. Educational researchers have found that upwards of 40% of incarcerated youth have a learning disability, and they will face significant challenges returning to school after they leave detention. I can't imagine that throwing a child in a cage for several months would impact their ability to learn. Who could have guessed that? All right, a little more. Most importantly, for a variety of reasons to be explored, there is credible and significant research that suggests that the experience of detention may make it more likely that youth will continue to engage in delinquent behavior, and that the detention experience may increase the odds that youth will recidivate, further compromising public safety. Recidivate means to reoffend, if you didn't know. I want to see real quick if it has solutions, like an alternative. Alternatives. Creating programs and services in the community to ensure appearance and good behavior pending disposition, and to be available as an option at sentencing. Yeah, but like, do we have anything about... I was kind of hoping for alternatives that would solve delinquency. Like, if you're a dangerous teenager, obviously you need to be separated from the community, but I'm looking for things that will say what we can do to just reduce the number of, like, violent offenders. Youth crime rates are falling, by the way. So that's another thing to understand. These teen takeovers that they're fear-mongering about are not like a real statistical problem. The social stigma of it too, indeed. Preventative measures? Yeah, preventative measures. That's what I was looking for. I don't think it has that very much of that in this article. The tough on crime concerns of the 90s changed the priorities and orientation of the juvenile justice system. Rising warnings of youth super predators, school shootings, and the amplification of serious episodes of juvenile crime in the biggest cities fueled political momentum that made the system tougher on kids. By the end of the 90s, every state in the nation had changed their laws in some way to make it easier to incarcerate youth in the adult system. As many states made their juvenile justice systems more punitive, the courts made more zealous use of detention, which is the opposite of what you want to do. And then, of course, it goes into separation of color, which is very important and should not be glossed over, but we're focused on mainly... Like, I could get into that, but this segment's gone on long enough already, and it's going to be a little longer still. But this looks like a very good article. Like I said, I'm going to link this in chat. And Dubsy, if you want to remind me to put this in the description as well, I'd appreciate it. We're learning today. I was just talking to Dubsy about wanting to do more content like this, so I'm very proud of this segment so far. This is good. Okay, who's Janine Pirot? Is that how you pronounce it? Pirot? or Perot. I'm going to say Pirro. Janine Ferris Pirro is an American television host, lawyer, and author who is serving as the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia since May 2025. Perot is a former judge, prosecutor, and politician in the state of New York. She was elected as judge of Westchester County Court in 1990. In 93, she was elected to the position of Westchester County District Attorney. She is the first woman to be elected in either of those positions. As district attorney, she gained visibility in cases of domestic abuse and crimes against the elderly. That's good. Perot was re-elected district attorney in 97 and 2001. She briefly sought the Republican nomination for United States Senate to run against Hillary Clinton in 2006, but dropped out to run as the Republican candidate for New York Attorney General. She lost the general election to Democrat Andrew Cuomo. How do you lose to Cuomo? Jesus. Then again, it is New York. From 2008 to 2011, she hosted a weekday television show entitled Judge Janine Perot on the CW. Of course, she's a TV star. From 2011 to 2022, she hosted Justice with Judge Janine on Fox News Channel. She has, I knew I recognized her from Fox News. I've seen her on there. She has authored 7 books, including Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy. Okay, so she's a Trump head, of course. Following the 2020 presidential election, Perot made false claims of voting machine fraud. In 2022, she became a co-host of The Five, a position she held until May 2025. She was also a frequent contributor to NBC News, including regular appearances on The Today Show. Imagine that, NBC News, the radical leftist news organization, of course, right? As we all know. Pronounced like the second syllable of Shapiro. So Pirro. Okay, got it. Pirro was named as a defendant in February 2021 in a defamation lawsuit by Smartmatic. She was among the Fox News hosts named in the Dominion Voting Systems versus Fox News Network defamation lawsuit for broadcasting false statements about the plaintiff company's voting machines. Fox News settled the case for $787.5 million and was required to acknowledge that the broadcast statements were false. On May 8th, 2025, President Trump named her as the interim United States Attorney for the District of Columbia to succeed Ed Martin. She was sworn in on May 28th and confirmed to the full position on August 2nd, 2025. So she is, in short, a former Fox News host and currently the attorney for Washington, D.C., the state attorney. Now, why are we bringing her up? Pirro promises jail for parents. Let's take a look.
We announce a new summer surge with increased law enforcement visibility.
I recognize her voice.
Expanded coordinated operations ahead of America 250. Since the launch of the coordinated operations on August 7th of 2020,
really tackling the real issues here. We have falling rates of juvenile crime, and yet we are cracking down on it. Really tackling the big issues here.
2025, this engagement has become one of, if not the largest, modern joint law enforcement collaboration in history. The results have been undeniable. Almost 13,000 arrests, including homicide suspects, gang members, narcotics trespassers, fugitives, weapons
narcotics trespassers. Okay.
Offenders. Almost 1,500 illegal firearms taken off the streets that then can't be used to intimidate and kill fellow citizens.
When did this administration become so anti-gun, by the way? I'm just pointing that out. Yeah, all the buzzwords. We got lots of buzzwords. Just throw it into the word salad. People will believe it. You can tell she's flexing her Fox News chops here.
And most importantly, violent crime is now down dramatically.
It's been going down. What are you talking about? Homicides are down 50%. I guarantee that's bullshit.
Homicides
you can assume everything she's saying is a lie.
Down almost 50%. Robberies down 42%. Carjackings are down 60%. Those numbers...
In the last 5 minutes, there has not been a carjacking. Therefore, carjackings are down by infinite percent.
Represent lives saved, families protected, businesses able to function safely, and neighborhoods that are beginning to reclaim peace and tranquility. Since
These
I took office, and it's been 1 year,
with their skateboards,
on May 14th of 2025, we have secured in my office over 7,000 convictions. So this isn't just about arrests. We are convicting these people. Almost 80 homicide convictions, almost 1,000 illegal firearm convictions, over 900 narcotics offense convictions, 400...
Narcotics offense convictions could literally be you are addicted to narcotics. It's not a good thing to convict somebody on that. That shouldn't be a crime to just be addicted to narcotics. That person needs help, not to be thrown into a cage.
60 violent crime convictions, 43 carjacking convictions, and over 125 robbery convictions. And as
Don't worry, we're punishing people. We're not fixing any of the shit that led to this to begin with, but we are punishing the people that did it. Don't worry.
the United States Attorney,
flogging
I
them.
will continue to use all of my powers to make sure that we use every tool available in our arsenal to make the arrests that are being conducted by these agencies stick and to get convictions. However, there is one area in Washington,
This guy's like staring at the camera. He's like staring into your fucking soul.
D.C., that has seen more than its share of one problem:
Don't stare too deeply. You'll get lost.
teen takeovers.
You'll be lost forever.
These
Here we go.
takeovers have terrorized our neighborhoods. They have shut down businesses, and they have wasted hard-earned tax dollars of law-abiding residents.
You guys wasted that. What are you talking about? You guys waste that money by arresting them and then going through the entire legal process for these teenagers who got into fist fights at worst. Like, it seems like at worst they're carrying guns and getting into fist fights. Okay? And they should not be carrying guns, mind you. But that's a problem with United States gun culture,
Who just want to live
which you people amplify.
and work in peace. Those takeovers in places like the Navy Yard and Noma often lead to disorderly conduct, assaults, robberies, and fights. Mayor Muriel Bowser has repeatedly requested curfew zones and emergency measures, while the D.C. Council refuses to deal with the problem. And I'm going to say that again. Where the D.C. Council that passes
Sounds like those kids are just cool as fuck. Shut up. No, crime is not cool. You know what's cool? Staying in school.
the laws refuses to deal with the problem. And their lack of action creates an extremely dangerous
even
situation
rhymes.
for the people of the district and even the teens themselves. And as we grapple with this problem, there is one
By
area
throwing them in cages.
that hasn't been discussed.
Uh-huh.
Parental involvement has been a noted gap in any discussion. And I am here to
I don't necessarily disagree with that point, by the way.
say, as the United States Attorney in the District of Columbia, that ends.
But it's the state's job to make it easier for parents to raise their kids. It is literally the state's job to make conditions better for raising children. That's one of their responsibilities. And she has offered nothing to those parents. She's just going to say, like, we're going to start arresting the parents of these kids.
Today.
Throw them in cages
Starting
too.
today, my office will
Just throw everybody in a box. If everybody's in a box, nobody can commit any crime.
aggressively prosecute parents under D.C.'s curfew law.
There it is.
And the specific statute that we will use is a violation of D.C. Code 22-811, and it involves contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
That's insane, by the way. This is an insane precedent to set. Like, I know that parents share some responsibility when their children do something out of line or like commit a crime, okay? But they did not themselves commit the crime. By the time you are a teenager, there are certain crimes that you know that you should not commit that you go and commit anyway, and you should be held accountable for those things as a teenager. And you can look at the parents and say, yeah, this is like, it would involve a very detailed investigation into the parents, in my opinion. Like, there should be a science to it. There is a science to it. That guy's still staring at me. It's freaking me out. There is a science to it, okay? And that science should be abided by. Like, you should look at what went wrong. If the parents did do something wrong that led to their children committing these behaviors, then they should be held accountable for that. Dude looks bored. He looks like he wants to send me to the back rooms.
This statute makes it unlawful for an adult to enable, facilitate, or permit a minor to engage in delinquent acts. The penalty is up to 6 months imprisonment.
Throw them in a box, 6 months.
So if the evidence shows the parent knew or should have known or permitted...
Should have known? That's literally all of them. Well, the evidence shows that you should have known that your child was going to get into a fist fight. 6 months jail for you.
Or failed to prevent participation.
But 6 months prison. That's not counting the jail time leading up to prison because bond is so expensive.
We're going to charge them. And if you drop your kid off and you fail to supervise them or you let them skip school to join the chaos, you are going to face fines.
Let them skip school? If you send your kid... Okay, this is how you know the whole parents' rights bullshit, right? The whole family values thing it's all bullshit. All of it's bullshit. No, these people do not give a fuck about family values. They don't care about parents' rights. They don't care about any of it. They just want, I mean, they just want to punish people. They just want their pound of flesh. What is this hack talking about? Throwing people in cages and treating them like animals to fix them, I guess.
Fines, court-ordered classes, and possible jail time. Penalties can be
court-ordered classes. Are they free? Based free parenting classes?
Imposed even if the juvenile minor is not prosecuted. So a parent...
Wait, so the minor... hold on. So the teenager can literally do nothing wrong, be charged with a crime, not be prosecuted for the crime because they did nothing wrong, and the parents can still be charged and convicted. Do you understand how insane that is? Nobody did anything wrong, and they're just like, okay, well, we're going to say you did anyway, and we're going to throw you in jail. There's no way, man. There's no way.
Is not prosecuted.
There's no way.
So a parent commits this offense if they permit or by insufficient control allow a minor under the age of 18 to violate a curfew. Now, we're going to be asking the Metropolitan Police Department to issue parental citations whenever a minor's curfew violation is tied to a takeover. We will seek to pair these citations with mandatory parental notification and court-mandated parental classes or family counseling as a condition of the resolution of the case.
Once again, I'm not against classes and counseling. I just hope they're free, which they won't be.
The shame of this is that we are protecting your children, the ones who may join a teen takeover out of simple curiosity.
We're doing this for you.
Because you won't.
We're doing this for you. We're protecting your children by throwing them in cages. You don't understand. We're doing this for you. This is all for you, my sweet little parents who don't know what the f they're doing. This is just disrespectful. Like this is, if you are a parent and you're watching this and your first thought isn't, wow, what a disgusting piece of shit. Like, what are you even doing? She's calling you a bad parent. Like she said, she's basically saying, I am going to take over the parenting process for you and punish your kids for you because you can't do it yourself.
Because we don't want your child victimized.
You guys are the ones victimizing. I'm going to lose my mind.
So we now have to step into your shoes, parents, to make sure that your child is not victimized. This doesn't require new legislation, folks. It's all there. And it sends a clear message to the parents that you must supervise your...
Nothing requires any legislation anymore. The Trump administration has demonstrated they get to do whatever the they want. They can trample all over all of your rights and they don't need a shred of paper to do so. Okay? Not a single scratch of ink. They can do whatever the they want to you, and if you dare question it, they'll just punish you worse. What are you going to do about it?
Kids or face criminal consequences. Law-abiding taxpayers should no longer have to pay for parental neglect. And as we take back our streets, as you've heard today, there will be no excuses. Parents, do your jobs, or we will do ours. And in the end, taxpayers will no longer subsidize the chaos caused by parental neglect.
Okay. You are using taxpayer dollars to send police and like armed militia basically out there to arrest teenagers for getting into fistfights, okay? With each other. The solution to this is to tell these idiots to go home, okay? And then if you want to implement family counseling and social programs to give them better opportunities and better things to do than fist fight each other in the streets, that's fine. But remember, this isn't even that big of a problem. This is a sensationalized, dramatized problem. It's made up bullshit. It happens now and then, okay? And when it does but when it does happen, the solution is not to throw these kids in cages. It never was and it never will be. What is this discarded condom talking about? She's talking about throwing both teenagers and their parents in jail for violating curfew. Like if you're out at 6:01 p.m. and you're 17 and a half, you and your parents can be thrown in jail for like 6 months.
So parents, if you
That's
don't
not a
control your kids, the district will. And as we approach finally the 250th
the
anniversary,
250th anniversary. The 250th anniversary, everybody, of our sacred country. They always bring that up. Somebody suggested on the majority report, you know what they should do, what Democrats should do, and I actually love this idea. Implement a 17.76 minimum wage. $17.76. How patriotic would that be? For the 250th anniversary, implement a $17.76 minimum wage federally. I think that's a beautiful idea. I'm super on board with it.
My message to anyone who seeks to commit political violence in this district,
like we're
DC
committing,
is
but
not
we're allowed.
the place.
We're allowed to commit political violence, though. We'll send our militia after you and your children. So what I've learned. So what have we learned today? What have we learned? One, teen takeovers are a sensationalized phenomenon. Most of the time, it is literally just teenagers getting together in big groups in certain places because they have no third space to go. And sometimes, once in a while, like once in a blue moon, it breaks out in some kind of fight or some other violent activity. Okay, some of them are carrying guns, but not very many. Mostly, this is just a sensationalized piece of material that the Trump administration is working on. Second, we learned that childhood trauma can lead to teenagers committing more delinquent activity, right? Now, what is the Trump administration doing about that? Oh, they're committing more childhood trauma. That's the third thing we've learned, right? What is the Trump administration doing? We're saying do more trauma to them. Throw them in cages, in fact. Make it worse. Make the problem worse, as the Donald Trump administration does. They love to throw fuel onto the fire, right? What did I miss? We're summarizing it now. And third, we learned a little bit about Jeanine Pirro, right? Jeanine Pirro, attorney for District of Columbia under Trump, and former Fox News host who, is solving this problem by once again throwing fuel on the fire, saying that we are going to implement a curfew and we are going to come down even harder. The long dick of the law will come down even harder onto teenagers and their parents, and we will do nothing to actually solve the root of this problem. Oh, wait, there was somebody wanted me to look at the comments of one of the videos. We'll look at some comments real quick before we end the segment. It's a long segment. Sorry, Dubsy, but I think it's a good one. This is from earlier, the kid that, tried to break up a fight. He tried to break up a fight and got in trouble for it. He's in the street fighting, but he wasn't part of it. What am I missing here? Exactly what happens at those meetups. See the BS grin on his face when he said tried to defuse. Cried to mama for backup. So they're just basically saying he's a liar. Should have had his ass at home. Keep charges, let it be a reminder. This is crazy. These people are sick in the head, man. Let's see what they're saying on this one. We have 195 likes. Unfortunately, it's going to be tough to find parents, especially fathers. Okay, yeah, this is just a racist dog whistle. Terminate all government money, stop welfare, food stamps, Section 8 housing, cut it all off to families involved. Yeah, all government money except the ones to the police and the military state. Please. The crime numbers are down to judges not convicting criminals. Okay. Researchers take into account if there are criminals that have a substantial amount of evidence against them being let off the hook. Okay, they're not stupid. If that were a phenomenon taking place, they would mention that in their research. These people are so stupid. Police needs to surround all exits of these street takeovers, bringing in buses handcuff. Everybody put them in the bus's tow and destroy all the vehicles and motorcycles, bicycles, or whatever they have out on the streets. Destroy all the weapons and charge them for removing all the rubber and repaint the lines on the streets, and especially charge the parents. That made sense. Yeah, destroy all of the vehicles on the streets. That's a good idea, man. These people are ate up. How you gonna find the fathers and make them take some responsibility? What a stupid question. Yeah, I agree. Common sense governing. Get ready for all the 70-year-old grandmas going to jail. These people don't have parents. The guardian will be charged. These people? What do you mean, man? What do you think they mean by these people? Although I do kind of agree that, yeah, we're going to get a lot of 70-year-old grandmas going to jail. And sounds good to me. Yeah, throw Granny in a cage. It's a good idea. Feeling safer already. Yeah, this will make things better. Don't worry, guys. Anyway, like I said, not a real problem. Trump administration is making it worse. That's all. Hi, thanks so much for watching and making it to the end of the video. I just wanted to let you all know that I love and appreciate everybody in my community, whether you can support me financially or just by liking, commenting, and sharing my videos. It helps way more than you know. That being said, I do want to give a very special thanks to my tier 4 subs, which would be Space Timid and Hot Take Andy. And thanks so much to my monetary subscribers from any of the tiered subs, or anybody who gives me money in any form, including going to my Patreon shop, donating money to me directly. It all helps way more than you know. If you do decide to help me financially, you can get some really cool perks like early access to content, exclusive access to censored videos, also some really cool badges next to your name. Even if you can't afford a monetary subscription, just watching, sharing, and commenting on my content helps way more than you know. Thanks again, and I will see you all in the next video.